So this is my starting point today, kind of the jumping off place. This is from Zen Master Dogen's 300 koan Shobogenzo. I'm sure all of you know that intimately. This is case 225, which I know you all have memorized, but I'll read it for those of you who may not know this particular translation. Okay. Dongshan's heat and cold. A koan in the Zen tradition is a little story, a question, an interchange, usually quite short. It's an expression. It's essentially like a poem in a way, in that it's a invitation to see something. And usually what it's designed to do is shift our perspective on something so that we can see something we might not otherwise. Does that kind of make sense? That's what Scripture does. Blessed are the meek. Like, well, wait, what does that mean? Oh, good, you've got it. Now put that in your heart and let it churn around. What do I mean, blessed are the meek? I want to see something that I didn't see before, right? So it's using language and stories to try to, you know what I mean, kind of get your normal way of perception, move that aside or jump the track a little bit so you can see something in a little bit of essentially a larger sense or a broader sense. You know, they're not as intimidating as they seem. We like to pretend like they're intimidating so we feel special, but they're just stories. Right? So here's case 225. A monk asked Master Dongshan. This is a student going to a teacher. Cold and heat descend upon us. How can we avoid them? Dongshan answered, why don't you go to the place where there is no cold or heat? The monk continued, well, where is the place where there is no cold or heat? And Dongshan replied, when it is cold, let it be so cold that it kills you. When it is hot, let it be so hot that it kills you. So there's our koan. I'll read it again in case it wasn't confusing enough the first time. Okay. A monk asked Master Dongshan, cold and heat descend upon us. How can we avoid them? Dongshan answered, why don't you go to the place where there is no cold or heat? The monk continued, where is the place where there is no cold or heat? And Dongshan replied, when it is cold, let it be so cold that it kills you. When it's hot, let it be so hot that it kills you. There we go. So, instead of ruining that by explaining it, I'm going to read something else. This is from one of our friends. When I say our, I mean Aslan. One of Aslan's friends, Yvette Erasmus. Dr. Erasmus is... Lyndall Johnson is the owner of Aslan, the founder of Aslan, and Yvette Erasmus is her daughter. She has two daughters, both PhDs, both connected intimately to this place in different roles over the many years, and she has her own website. She does individual counseling and therapy, as well as a lot of work with nonviolent communication and emotional intelligence and this kind of stuff. And so she's always offering these little things on Facebook, and I'm on her mailing list, and she's always offering little self-awareness practices and this kind of stuff, which I just find really helpful. So this is from some years ago, but I'll read it to you. For those of you who signed up for the devotion class, whatever I called that thing in the fall, you'll be seeing this again in another 2 months. Yvette says, daily self-connection practice. Paying attention to the present moment, cultivating gratitude, are two foundational practices for a compassion-based, healthy, growth-oriented life. Although I know this intellectually, it didn't become a lived reality in my life until I made it an intentional practice. At the start of every day, one of my go-to actions is to start my day with some sort of beverage, tea or coffee on weekdays, celery juice, lemon water, green juice on weekends. And this morning ritual has become a daily opportunity for taking intentional time for self-connection and gratitude. It's probably starting to sound like what you're doing right now, taking intentional time for self-connection, right? My practice goes something like this. I notice my beverage before I actually drink it. I notice the temperature of the cup or the glass in my hand. I notice the steam rising or the coolness of the glass on my skin. I notice what my body starts to do as it anticipates the first sip. I notice the aromas that arise from the liquid, the colors, the ripples. I take a first sip and I pay attention to the sensation on my lips, in my mouth, in my throat. I notice how far I can feel the liquid traveling into my body. I notice how my needs for hydration, presence, self-connection, and self-care are met in that moment. I may even notice how my needs to matter, to be known, and to be seen are met by me as I engage in this practice. As I feel this beverage seeping into the cells of my body, I find out how it actually makes me feel. So the second reading was probably a little easier to grab. But I'm wondering if you see that those two things are the same. The two readings are the same thing. The two readings are actually the very same thing. What Yvette is talking about is no resistance between her and her experience. Letting the experience happen and investigating it thoroughly. There's no gap between her and her experience. She's just, right? There's no gap. There's no resistance. There's no space. She's just letting the experience happen. Can you feel the surrender there of smell, eyes, ears, texture, throat, just completely allowing it, right? And in the first reading, what do I do to get away from heat and cold? Don't fight it. Stop resisting it. Let it all the way in. Let it all the way in. He uses wonderful dramatic language. Let it kill you. It's not going to kill you. You're not going to die, right? Let it be so hot. Let it be so cold. So I love this reading. I love this case, actually. It's one of my favorites. I think because I identify with it so thoroughly. And I love what Yvette wrote because I know that practice really well. For those of you who know or have had experience with mindfulness practices, what she's describing is just standard issue. Right off the rack mindfulness practice. Right? Drink the tea like you're the pivot of the turning world. Don't do anything but drink the tea. No resistance to the tea. Completely investigate the tea. The thoughts, the feelings, the anticipation, physical, emotional, mental. Just give yourself to it entirely, right? That's basic mindfulness. It's what we've just been doing in this room. Before you lift, notice the urge to lift. Notice the beginning of the lift. Notice the constriction. Notice the balance adjustment. Notice the intention to lower the foot. Notice the beginning of the lowering. Notice the constriction. Notice the expansion. Notice the moment of contact. Can you kind of feel that? It's like, wow. Walking is an incredibly complicated experience. We do it all the time, every day. So we've long ago fallen asleep. We've long ago taken for granted that when we put the foot down, the ground is going to be there, and it is, and so we stop paying attention to it, right? Somewhere stored in our body is the memory of how it felt at the very beginning. When standing up was, wow, I just became twice as tall. Everything just really, really changed. Wham, right back down again. Oh my God, what was that? Oh, mama. I'm not ready to be a two-legged yet. I'm still a four-legged. But I see that big people are two-leggeds. Maybe that's, can you kind of feel it? There's quite an adjustment there. When you watch a little kid trying to learn to walk, it's completely captivating, right? You're just rooting for him. You're just rooting for him, but you're just aware like you are exploring a relationship with gravity and balance, and you know nothing of either one of those things. You know, no concept. There's no conceptual awareness. It's totally physical. They have to figure out in their bodies how this thing works. So, same with our tea, right? We've all been drinking beverages a very long time. And so we stop paying attention. I think the reason that the koan, Dongshan's heat and cold, resonates with me is because I resist mightily the weather. I resist. I live in Minnesota. I have 4 seasons of things to resist, right? 2 seasons especially. It's always too hot this time of year. Oh my God, when I go out there during lunch. Oh, it's actively trying to kill me. Why? Is the universe so unjust? It's so personal. I know it's about me. Ugh. And then, you know, we all know what's going to happen in 6 months. Yep, it's trying to kill you. It's actively trying to kill you. Hope your car doesn't break down or you'll die. God, we live in a dramatic part of the world. Oh, dear. The first time I went to Africa with Lyndall, the founder of Aslan here, we do pilgrimages with frequency. We've done probably a dozen of them over the years. We used to do them annually before COVID. And we were heading to Africa for the first time, and I had a lot of anxiety about it. I had never been to that continent. I knew nothing about it. It's where Lyndall's from, so she's just got it in her cells. And I was like, so what do I expect? I mean, like the heat and the animals, and like, oh, I'm really, really nervous. She goes, it's just the same thing as Minnesota, but it's trying harder to kill you. So all of that turned out to be a lie, except for the trying harder to kill me part, which is, yeah, the snake that bites you here isn't dangerous. The one over there is. And, you know, the thorns over there are 4 times longer than the thorns over here. It's the same thing. It's just trying harder to kill you. She thought that was hilarious. Probably because it freaked me out. What are we pointing to here? We're pointing to our engagement with our experience. That's what our koan is about. Our koan and our daily self-connection practice that Yvette invites us into are both coming from a wise place that recognizes that our human nature, our human instinct, is to constrict and withdraw. It's what human beings do. We don't have to pathologize that. We don't have to make it mean anything about us. We certainly don't have to assume that that's a failing. But it does seem important to recognize. When I'm uncomfortable in the heat, I constrict and I resist and I wish it were different. I put something between me and the experience. I put a story, right? There's a story there. There's a constriction there. There's a resistance there. Things are not as they should be. You can feel that's a constricted place. I'm not letting it in. I'm not investigating my experience. I'm not in any way expanding to hold it. Right? Now, heat and cold, of course, are metaphors here. When grief comes, how do I get away from it? When sadness comes, how do I get away from it? When confusion comes, how do I get away from it? When a memory that I don't like comes, how do I get away from it? Can you feel the impulse there? This is the most human thing in the world. The student is bringing his teacher. How can we avoid them? It's so great. It's like it's right there in the first line. The teacher must have been like, oh man, this is an easy one. This guy telegraphed the whole thing. How do I get away from the stuff that I don't like? Oh, mama. Oh, sweetie. That's not going to happen, is it? And it's very human. I think for most of us, it's true for me anyway, but I think for most of us, the original draw, the original pull to spiritual experience, to meditation, to religious life, to anything under the umbrella of what we're doing today, was a desire to go to a place that wasn't hot or cold. The human life hurts and I want to avoid it. Maybe I can go to a place where that isn't. And so that's what I asked of this cushion. That's what I asked of meditation. That's what I asked of the literature. That's what I asked of the community. That's what I asked of those spaces. I'm coming here to get away from the thing that I think hurts. I want to go to the place where it's not hot or cold. You know? And I understand that. It makes a lot of sense. I can say that now to all of you without the addition of self-blame. Idiot. What did you think you were getting away from? Because I'm just like, well, yeah, I didn't know. It's okay. In fact, I can even say it from a place of, well, of course you did. Why else would you have come if you didn't want something? It's easy now to see, oh, that was greed. Yeah, I know. It was also delusion. Oh, yeah, totally. Totally. Greed and delusion. Trying to get away from something you didn't like. Oh, there's hate. Oh, yeah, all three are present. Of course. Like, of course. Why else would you have done anything? And yet the container served me well, all of you, right? Because the container was kind enough to hold me long enough for me to see, oh, the trying to get away is part of the thing that hurts, isn't it? Hot dog. Took me 15 years, but you were patient enough to sit with me for 15. He'll figure it out. We'll keep telling him. We'll keep reading weird koan. Sooner or later, he'll go, oh my God, I get it. The heat isn't a problem. It's just hot. I've survived that 1,000 times. Falling down for that little one, right? When they're learning, it's okay. It's just the ground. Ouch, it hurts. Now it doesn't. It's okay. You're fine. How many times grief showed up in my heart on the cushion? It's just grief. Yeah, it's okay. It's there. I can actually experience it fully. I can ask for more. I can dive down even further. Even more. You've had that feeling. How many times have you been scared? More times than you can possibly count. How many times have you been scared? 1,000? 10,000? 100,000? Next time scared arises, you can go, ooh. Let's go all the way down. Is there a layer beneath? What is it? Like, really, what is it? You know you're fine because it's arisen in you. All of those times, you've survived every single one of them. It's okay. You are safe. You are huge, the space of what you really are. The experience of being hot, investigate it. Wow, my hot. Yeah. Go all the way down in. What does a hot body feel like? What happens to it? Is it just pain or is there other stuff? Is there pleasure in it? Do some parts of my body feel hot and do other parts not? I wonder. Do I sweat equally everywhere? Is there an emotional component to feeling too hot? Is there? I don't know the answer. Is that true? I wonder. I wonder what that is. Some of us have a really, really hard time on a hot day like today, right? Some of us don't. So that fascinates me too. If Boo shows outside and he's like, oh my God, another 30 seconds. This is it. Oh, I'm coming for you. Oh, Jesus. Right? And the person next to me is like, we should go for a run. I'm like, how come two Homo sapiens are standing in the same place at the same time, in the same weather, on the same day, and one of them is suffering mightily and the other one isn't? What is that about? I love my friends who don't have a hard time on days like today because they remind me, you're actually fine. You're not going to die. right? I know you've got the German-Irish whiteness and you're not used to this kind of stuff. Yeah, I know. I have a genetic predisposition to, I know, because I'm more comfortable 6 months from now than they are. I get that too. But I still feel the invitation to, why don't you investigate your experience? Find the part of you that knows you're just safe, you're just cranky, and you've been cranky 10 trillion times, so just be cranky, but why don't you investigate it? Just the way Yvette is like, why don't you investigate your tea? Is it just hot, and then there's resistance to hot, and then maybe there's a storyline about hot, and maybe there's memories of being hot? Wow, there's actually a lot going on right now. Why don't I investigate that? How is that not my cup of tea? That's literally my cup of tea. There's so much happening in me, and it's worthy of my investigation. Our human experience is so precious. It's so fleeting. We all know that. Both parts of us, but all of us, we all know that. We all know life is short. We all know life is precious. And yet when life shows up, 95% of the time we go, I wish you were different. Isn't that funny? It's funny. It's like God gets like a D-. It's worth going through, but boy, you messed up a whole bunch of stuff. I'll give you a list. I'll just give you a list, right? It's so weird to think, but my list is going to be different than Francisco's list. It's going to be different than Joan's list. It's going to be different than Cynthia's list. Oh, I see how this works. I see how I'm trying to avoid hot and cold. I see how I'm putting up barriers to my experience. I see how I'm saying, how dare you show up this way? How dare you show up this way? As a friend who won't meet my needs, as a cat who gets sick, a parent that dies, 90 and humid. So, where do we go with this today? Well, what all of us are engaged with is very fundamental. It's quite a remarkable thing. It doesn't mean anything about our value, what we're doing today, but it is still quite a remarkable thing. To commit yourself for just a few hours to doing things you were going to do anyway. You were going to sit today. I mean, you were going to sit down in a chair at some point today. That's what you're doing. You were going to sit today. You were going to walk today. At some point, you were going to walk. I mean, the bathroom isn't right there. You got to get to it. Right? So you were going to walk today. You were going to eat today. You're going to do that. That's all we're really doing. Sitting, walking, eating together. But the decision you've made is, I'm going to do all the things that I was going to do, but I'm not going to add anything else. And I'm going to try with a very big heart to pay as close attention to all of it as I can. That's what I'm going to do today. It's just what Yvette did with her tea. I'm going to drink the tea anyway. Either way, I'm going to drink the tea. Or the coffee or the juice. But I'm going to make the decision to make it a ritual by paying as close attention to it as I possibly can. I don't want to miss anything. I really want to investigate it. No space between me and the tea. I want to devote myself to that experience. I want to bear witness to it as curiously and lovingly and intimately as I can. And we're doing that with our posture. We're doing that with our breathing. We're doing that with our movement. I'm sure you can find some of what Yvette is describing, when she breaks it down into all those details, like, oh, first this part, and then this part, and then this part, and then this part, and being like, oh God, yeah, you're right. Right, I've already swallowed probably 62 times today, but I didn't notice any of those things, right? But as we're doing walking meditation, you're like, well, wait, that has to happen in order to this, which means this and that. Oh, and there's also the person in front of me. Am I going too slow? And the person behind me. Wait, am I crowding them? Oh my God, there's so much going on. Oh, and look at how smoothly Jody is moving. And look at how my emotions feel. Oh, so then there's the emotional part. And then, why don't they go faster? Oh, now there's restlessness. Oh, I should do what Dongshan said. Let the restlessness kill me. Just let it kill you. There is only restlessness. Just investigate. Oh, how many times have I experienced restlessness in my life? Oh, more times than I can count. I bet I'm safe. I bet I'm going to survive. Yeah, of course. I wonder what else I can find in there. I wonder what else is in there. I wonder what else is in there. Wow, the whole world just cracks open, doesn't it? Here's a human being having a human experience. A human being having a human experience. I'm so fascinated by this human. They're not around very long. It's such a temporary shape. I'm a spirit. I'm consciousness. That's not a problem, ever. That's not going anywhere. But this little tiny human container, so short, so vivid. Isn't it vivid? Holy cow, can you feel the party that already wants it to be done? Oh, I wish it was 4 hours from now. Right? Oh, that's what humans do. Look at them. And the other part, oh, this is the most peaceful I've felt in 6 months. I hope it never ends. Isn't that fascinating? Can you notice that experience arise? Just go, wow. There's emotions there. There's story there. I can actually feel that physically in your body. You can feel the difference between, oh God, I wish it was 4 hours from now, and I hope it never ends. They feel differently. In your cells, they feel differently. Before it even shows up as emotion, before it even shows up as storyline. All that stuff kills us. Can you feel it? Just, wow. What a thing you've chosen to do today. You're doing exactly the practice Dongshan is inviting us to do, this ancient Chinese Zen master. You're doing exactly the practice Yvette has invited us to do, who lives right across town. I forget where she is now. Anyway, I haven't seen her in a few weeks, so. And you're doing exactly what you invited yourself to do today, what you most long for. We think we long for pleasure and we don't. I really challenge you with that. You think you want pleasure. I understand that. But the truth is, when it shows up and you're with it, it's unsatisfactory. It's not enough. Because you notice in your moment of pleasure, I want more of this. And there's immediately a grasping. That is true. Notice it. This is just our human life. It isn't a problem. You are not failing. But just notice that the hot bath and the candles and the yoni, it's not enough. It's lovely. Well, whatever it is you listen to. Geez Louise. There's a lot of judgment from the people over here in the corner. They're lavender-scented candles, and yoni goes wonderfully with lavender-scented candles in a hot bath. So there we go. My point is, I'm making that up, you guys. My point is, please investigate. Investigate. Because we have this idea of craving. This poor monk has this idea that if I could never be cold and never be hot, I'd be happy. All right, find that place then. See how it works out for you. Can you feel that there's still avoidance there? This isn't me getting bigger and embracing. This is me going, As long as I'm in the bath, as long as the song is on repeat, as long as the candles don't burn down, everything is okay. It's beautiful to have that experience. Please, go home. Have hot baths. Listen to yoni. I love it. It's wonderful. But don't kid yourself into thinking this is not an anxious place, because it is. It's a very subtle anxiety. But it's there at the bottom because you know this thing that's making you feel good is going away, and that you are dependent upon it to feel good, and it's going away. And you're dependent upon it to feel good, and it's going away. Shit. I love you, baby, and as long as you're around, I feel good. Can you feel it? Uh-oh, I've got a lot of anxiety about you right now, don't I? Because if you leave if you change as long as it's 90 and sunny, can you feel it? As long as my grandkids are visiting, as long as my back doesn't hurt, as long as. So what we're being invited into is a relationship with our experience that's non-craving. contingent. Just the way it is whole. Just the way it is lacks nothing. This is beyond pleasure and pain. It's beyond preference. It's beyond what I like and what I don't like. Can you feel the size of that? I'm not describing to you an experience. I'm describing to you the container that holds the experience. Content is coming and going. Happy is coming and going. Joy is coming and going. Coming and going, coming and going. They're wonderful. Yay! It's the scenery. It's the scenery of the road trip. Ooh, look, now it's raining and now it's sunny, and now it's uphill and now it's downhill. Now there's a traffic jam and now it's free-flowing, and now it's mountains and now it's plains. Wonderful, wonderful. There's the human experience. I didn't used to be able to walk, and now I can. Someday I won't be able to. Someday I'll ask the legs to move, and they won't. That will happen to those legs, I know. So what if I'm the witness? What if I'm the one who sees it? Oh, there. You used to be able to move, didn't you? And now you cannot. Can you feel it? The size of that space? That's what you are practicing doing today. Isn't that wonderful? That's the container you've put yourself in. We call it self-remembering, that you remember, I'm the one who watches. I'm the witness. I'm the container. I'm the consciousness in which all of this arises. Look at all of it. I can appreciate it. I can allow it. That's all it is. Kind investigation, loving investigation. That's our nature as awakened beings. What an invitation. What a thing. What a thing. I will wrap up here, but what I said when we were starting the first sitting, that I'm inspired and I am energized, I am encouraged by people showing up to do what you've done today. That's a true thing. Making sense of koans, not making sense of koans, who cares? It's weather that comes and goes. What doesn't come and go is sitting still and going, what is this? What is this? Can I love it? That's all we're really doing. That is inspiring. I need a tremendous amount of support to continue to do that. All of us need a tremendous amount of support to continue to do that. So we come together on days like this, at places like this, to give ourselves permission. You get to investigate all the way to the bottom. You get to fall in love with your heartbreak, or make friends with your knee pain, or hold the part of you that thinks the heat is going to kill them. That's okay. You give me permission to do the practice. I give you permission to do the practice. This is what spiritual community has done from the very, very beginning. It is so simple. And so I think it has the possibility, therefore, to be very profound. And so as we sit alone together, which is how we oftentimes describe meditation retreats, we're alone together. I will let you return to your personal practice, your introspection. I know the landscape you are bearing witness to will be unique to you today. And I also know that if you sat down and told me about it in great detail, I'd recognize all of it, because it's also universal. That's why we get to be together when we're alone. And I think that's as much as I want to say, but thank you. Thank you for engaging with what you're engaging with today. And yeah, let's let the heat and the cold kill us. All right. Thank you.